Hello, and welcome to my office. My name is Karen Barnett, and I am the author of the upcoming novel When Stone Wings Fly. And I'm recording a short series of videos about some of the behind the scenes information for the novel, for those of you that are looking forward to the June 14th release of this book. And I'm excited to talk to you today. Last time that we chatted, I told you a little bit about how birds play an important part in this story. You can see the little chickadee on the cover. And we talked about how one of the characters is an ornithologist, and there is bird imagery throughout the story. But it goes even deeper than that, which is what I hinted at the end of the last video. And that's that if you probably know, if you've been with me for a while, that this novel is the first time I have attempted a split time novel, or a dual timeline, or a time slip, if you're familiar with these terms, where you take a historical storyline and a modern day storyline, and something joins them together. You weave the story together, and it tells a complete story with the two of them, and you switch back and forth. The reader gets to switch back and forth between experiencing the historical storyline and the modern day storyline, and you get to see how they come together, which was so much fun to write. It's a genre that I have loved for many years. I am a big fan of Susan Meissner and Melanie Dobson and so many of the others that write these beautiful novels where you have not just a glimpse of history, but a glimpse of how history impacts the current day and the people who are descended from what happened in the past. So I was excited to write that. It really fits well with the Great Smoky Mountains, because this national park was the first that was created out of entirely privately owned land. Most of our Western parks were created out of what we call public lands, or lands taken from the Native Americans and owned after that by the federal government. And then it was easy to just, with the stroke of a pen, make them into national parks. Well, maybe not easy, but easier. The Great Smoky Mountains was a different story, because it was already owned by forestry companies, by mining interests, and by a lot of private landowners. A lot of settlers had built farms there. And so the process of making that into a national park was a lot of turmoil and a lot of heartache, and a lot of people having to give up their family's land in order to create this national park. And today, when you go there, you can still feel that tension. You can enjoy the beautiful forests and mountains and waterfalls that are protected by the National Park Service today. But in some ways, it feels like the forests and the mountains just whisper the stories of what happened in the past. And so that was something I really wanted to capture, both the history and the modern day implications of what has gone on in this park in the past. Now, to tell you a little more about how birds play into this story, if you've read a lot of these time slip novels, you know there's typically an item, an object that joins the past and the present. And I like to call it a touch point item. It's something that the people in the past might have owned or interacted with. And then it eventually works its way through history, and the people in the modern day storyline also interact. And so as the reader, you get to see this object and how it impacts people in both generations. And if you've probably read some time slip novels in the past. So I've seen ones that have used a piece of jewelry or a journal or a painting. I remember one of my favorite, one of the first novels I read by Susan Meissner used a house. That is incredible. And Melanie Dobson has used a children's book. There are very creative items that you can find that can just connect the past and the present. And I love that idea of someone holding something in the past, and then a person in today, in modern day times, holding that same item and thinking, wow, my great grandmother held this as well. And that's a powerful thing that connects us to our past. And so when I was choosing an item for When Stone Wings Fly, I thought, what better for it to be than a bird? But birds obviously don't live that long. So I decided, because one of my characters had a Cherokee ancestry, just a little bit in her past, she would have a little stone figure of a bird, a little carving of a bird. And when I was back in the Great Smokies doing research for the novel, I visited the Museum of the Cherokee Indian. I think it's called Museum of the Cherokee Indian, and it's in Cherokee, North Carolina. And amongst all of these incredible objects that they have saved and the story that this museum tells as you walk through, a heart-rending, very powerful story. I encourage you to visit this museum if you ever get the chance. It's just south of the national park. But one of the items that I saw when I was there was a series of stone effigies, little figures, and some of them were pipes and some were just statues. And they were things that had been carved by ancient Cherokee people. And I thought, what if way, way in the past, way before the story ever opens, someone had carved a little stone bird and it came to be owned by my historical heroine, Rosie, in the 1930s. So it is already passed down a few generations. And then some point in the future, it comes down and is owned later by my contemporary heroine, Kieran. And it is this item that joins Rosie and Kieran beyond just their blood, their heritage, but it is a physical item that they can touch and hold, and connects them and connects the reader between these two storylines. And so I will show a picture of the little Cherokee pipe that had a bird figure on it. I have a picture from the museum, and I will superimpose that on the video, and you can see what that looked like. But I also had my own image because I thought making it a pipe would actually complicate the story a little bit. I'd have to explain a little bit about why pipes were used. And I thought maybe just a little, for the sake of imagination, just a little statuette, a little figure would work better for my story. So I made it just a very plain little bird statue that had been carved from soapstone. And so I actually found one later after the book was written. I found one on eBay. And it's probably, not ancient, not valuable. It's probably something someone just carved because they wanted to learn stone carving. And so I now have a little bird that is actually kind of similar to how I imagined the bird in the story. Just a very simple form. I describe it a little bit differently, but somewhat similar to this. It'd probably be a little bit smaller because I describe the characters holding it in the palm of their hand and rubbing their thumbs on it, almost like a worry stone, if you remember those. And I say generations of women had rubbed it smooth. And they also carry it in the story. Both characters have carried it in their pocket from time to time. This one would be a little larger than that. So there you go. This is the touchstone object, or something similar to that connects Rosie in the 1930s to Kieran in present day. And you will see how this bird, how this little stone figure connects them across the years and actually impacts what they learn about themselves, what they learn about their faith, and leads into their character transformation. So I hope you enjoy learning a little more about the touchstone object in my time slip novel that is coming out June 14th, called When Stone Wings Fly. I'll see you next month.